My dad died suddenly about a year ago, and my mom found this really nice guy that she's started seeing. I'm 23 and going into my final year of college. My mom's boyfriend has two daughters ages 15 and 13. My mom has stepped in to be a mother figure to them, and the boyfriend has stepped into my extended family, becoming everyone's favorite uncle. And while I'm glad everyone else is comfortable, I'm not. He isn't a bad guy, I'm just still grieving my father, and it feels like he's trying to replace him. He tries to set rules for me, things like chores and curfew, that my dad specifically didn't because he thought they were ridiculous for an adult. Boyfriend thinks it's only fair because I have siblings now. I think it's ridiculous to have the same rules apply because of our age differences. He's trying to get me to share my stuff with his kids. They aren't lacking for anything, but he thinks it's only fair because family. I live in the basement of my mom's house. I have since I was 15. When you come in the front door, there's a door to the basement and the stairs to go into the house. So it's pretty separate. So last night I was partying for some friends and got home at 2 a.m. I had nothing to do until 3 p.m. today since classes aren't until next week and my new job starts in 2 weeks. So this has never been a big deal with my parents. I shot my mom a text and went to bed. Tonight though, man, boyfriend flipped. I got a lecture and was sent to my room and possible loss of car privileges. I snapped and laid it out for him. I told him I'm leaving the city after I graduate. I told him I'm glad my mom found a new partner, but that I am not and will not be looking for a new father figure, and he needs to respect that. I told him our relationship won't be father and son for some time, and that he needs to respect me as an adult, or that I won't want to have a relationship with him. He told my family and they think I'm an idiot. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You're an adult, so the rules shouldn't be the same for you as they are for his teenage children. Your father recently died and neither him or your mom should be trying to push the stepdad role onto you. I completely understand why you'd lose it like that. It's still too soon for him to be trying to take your father's position. He probably means no harm, but he has to understand given the circumstances and why you'd feel the way you do. Not the idiot. At all. Not even a little bit. He's completely out of line, and you set him straight in a direct, adult way. I don't understand the family bit. He's your mom's boyfriend. They could break up tomorrow. His kids aren't your siblings. You aren't required to share anything with them. This guy sounds bizarre. Continue doing your thing. Your mother should have your back a little bit more. She introduced this weird, disruptive guy into your lives while you're grieving. She's probably not thinking clearly. Grieving a loved one is awful. Condolences on your dad. Good luck with everything. Not the idiot. As both a stepkid and a stepparent, I can tell you that the problem isn't the boyfriend, it's your mom. It's her house and her son, and whatever this guy is doing, it's because your mom is allowing it. Take you and your mom for a session with a grief counselor. You'd be amazed at how much your mom is allowing is because of grief, and she also needs to realize everyone's grief is different and at a different pace. This dude is way out of line, and I would listen to the poster who said it was an early red flag for future super controlling behavior. I have a 16-year-old son, and he has 4 half-siblings who are all younger than him. I was only ever with his mom for a brief period of time, and we both agreed prior to sleeping with each other that we were on the same page about not having a kid. Obviously, that didn't work out because she got pregnant. I did practice safe lovemaking and wore rubbers, but hey, I'm a dad now anyway. I asked her to abort, she told me she changed her mind, and she kept the baby. I wasn't thrilled about being a dad. After paternity was established, I said about paying child support, and that was it. I had no intention of wanting to be in his life, especially because my own parents had kicked me out and I was still a kid myself. After a few months, though, I felt the need to be there and actually be a father, so I put aside my own feelings and put him first. We are incredibly close today, and I'm so glad and grateful that I got to be his dad. I was 18 when I had him, and over the years I was lucky enough that I was able to become financially independent and in essence retire early, so I'm able to give my son experiences that I never had. He chose to live with me when he was 11, which was a huge sore spot for his mom, but he'd always beg prior to that because his brothers and sisters would break his stuff and he'd get yelled at because he's the oldest, etc. His mom has always been courteous, but over the last few years, she has become more and more resentful that my son gets more than her other kids. She is by no means poor, but obviously, Her resources are spread over 5 kids, whereas mine is spread over 1. It was his birthday last week, and as a gift, I bought him a car, which he'll be needing soon anyway, and which I've had the cash aside for years. When his mom found out, she called me furiously on the phone and told me that I'm a piece of crap for making her other kids feel bad because I've never spent a penny on them, and every time he goes to visit it's obvious his dad is spending money on him. I snapped back and told her that she expects me to shell out on kids I have no obligation to just so she doesn't feel bad. She said that all the years of them seeing my son go on vacations, his clothes, his mannerisms, etc. made her and her kids feel bad, and she told me that I was selfish for having a fund for only my son because none of her other kids will be able to afford college. I told her that's an unfortunate reality for kids who have different parents, and it is what it is. She's normally pretty level-headed, so I honestly have no idea why she thinks it's acceptable to ask me to pay for her other kids too. I've never tried to flaunt anything via my kid, I just want him to have the best I can give him. Not the idiot, and I say this as one of the other kids. I have 2 older half-siblings. We all grew up in the same household, with my father as the main father figure. Their dads stepped up later in life. Bought them cars, paid for college, spring breaks, got them jobs, etc. When I was young I didn't understand why they got to go away for vacations and I didn't. I was left alone, it's screwed. Was I jealous that they got BMWs, Mustangs, Jaguar, once they totaled enough they got downgraded to Hondas? I was extremely jealous. But he wasn't my dad. He owed me nothing. Would it have been nice? Yes. Not the idiot, but I can totally understand why the wife is upset, again not because of you. She has multiple kids and one of being treated almost like royalty in their standards. This kid has a good chance of having a good life, while the other will probably work a lot harder. It is easy to break down when you think about how one of your kids can feel like crap and poor when their half-brother comes home with a car. But that's reality. I feel like poor crap whenever I walk by my friend's car, but what else am I to do? Not the idiot. That whole discussion stops at you spending money etc. on your kid. The others are not your responsibility, and you have absolutely no obligation whatsoever to do crap for them. She needs to take that whining and throw it at their fathers, not just one father of the one kid. Your kid is going to be taken care of and that's all that matters when it comes to you. If they feel bad about your son having a good life, then she needs to step it up and make their fathers step up, or stop basing their feelings off of someone else's happiness and success. Me and my wife recently found out that her daughter, my stepdaughter, though I consider her close enough to my own after having raised her for 18 years, has taken out about $60,000 in loan debt under our name, without our permission. For some basic context, she took out a Parent Plus loan for school, under our name and social security number, without asking us. In her first semester of her freshman year, she did come to us, asking if we would fill out the paperwork for her, since her school's loans were only for about $5,000 for the whole year. We explained that we didn't have the financial means to take out a loan for the amount she was requesting, about $14,000 a year, but offered to help her find scholarships or work study and other ways to potentially help her cover her costs. After me and her applied for about 5 or 10 scholarships and she got a part-time job, she never came back to me and my wife with any financial aid concerns again, so we figured that she had largely figured it up. We brought up tuition a couple times, but every time we'd ask, she'd just say that she was able to cover it all and didn't need any help with it or anything. Come us, a couple years down the road. We've gotten a letter from the Department of Education saying that our loan has gone into default and has been so for about a year at this point. We reach out to her school and, after a little bit of digging, we discover that after we had told her no on the loan, she had gone around our back and applied for it all online. She filled in her own contact information instead of our own, and the loan went through just fine, since she had the correct social security numbers and all. We've spoken with the school and the DOE a fair amount about this already, and we basically have 2 options for this. We can either eat the loan and pay it all back ourselves, something not at all financially feasible for my family, since we have about $40,000 in medical debt on top of this now, or to go through the state to press charges on each one of the 5 loans she's taken out, each loan being over $10,000, making this a felony in my state with a minimum prison sentence. At this point, I'm not certain what my family can do. We don't have the money to be able to pay this loan back, but me and my wife are emotionally wrecked at even the thought of pressing charges against our own daughter. So, here's the important question. If I press charges here, am I the idiot? Definitely not the idiot. Not only did she take out the loans without permission, she allowed them to go into default. If she had done it and paid the bill every month, she'd still be the idiot, but I'd be slightly more willing to give her a pass. She stole $60,000 plus, with interest, from you that she knew you didn't have, and defaulted anyway. If she's willing to steal so much from her own parents, imagine what she'll steal from people she doesn't know. She deserves to face the consequences of her actions, even if that means prison. Not the idiot. You're in a really tough spot. But family isn't a free pass to defraud family members. It's not going to be easy for you either way. Either you don't press charges and they see they can get away with using you, or you press charges and the relationship takes a hit. If you do the latter, please know that absolutely doesn't make you an idiot. And if the relationship is ruined, they caused it. Not you or your spouse. Not the idiot, and a lot of commenters are misreading the post. She is most likely 22, not 18. She went to college and spent 4 years fraudulently using her parents' identity to take out multiple loans. As a current college student who has taken out loans, the process involves information being forced on you to make you understand how a loan works. So stop saying she's 18, she didn't think about the consequences, it was premeditated and felonious. I know my parents would press charges on me, and I would deserve it. For background, I am Australian, but I currently live and work in Singapore. I have 2 houses back home, one of which I have been letting my sister and her family, 3 kids, live in almost rent-free, just enough to cover property expenses. They've been living there for almost 10 years now without any issues. My sister is married to a top bloke called Campbell. Great guy, works for a mining company, and makes a decent living. My sister is a kindergarten teacher and doesn't make very much. This might be relevant, which is the only reason I'm mentioning it. Anyway, it recently came out that my sister has been having an affair for a while now. Campbell is obviously freaking devastated, and the two of them immediately agreed to separate and eventually divorce. Now, they both assumed that being my sister, she should continue living at my house with the kids while Campbell rents an apartment. When I found this out, I called Campbell and asked whether he was okay with this arrangement or whether he would prefer to continue living at my house with the kids while my sister moves out. He obviously wanted to continue living there with the kids and only moved out because he assumed I'd side with my sister. So I tell my sister the new arrangement and she loses her mind over this. I basically told her in no uncertain terms that going forward Campbell will continue living at my house, whether they divorce or not. My family thinks I'm being a manipulative idiot for not siding with my own sister, inserting myself into their problems. Doing this despite knowing it will help Campbell get primary custody since my sister can't afford to take care of them plus parent. I take the opposite view. I think I am doing the morally right thing by not letting my relationship with my sister cloud my judgment. In my opinion, Campbell is the one that deserves to continue living there, since my sister is the one that ruined the marriage by cheating. So yeah, sorry for rambling, am I the idiot? Just realized I should mention that sister staying at my other property is not possible. Everyone's the idiot here. Nowhere in your post do you mention or consider what is actually best for the kids, your own nephews or nieces. Instead, this is all about punishing your sister for her moral failings. She is an idiot for cheating. Her husband and their kids are not idiots. The best solution would be to tell them that whoever keeps the kids can stay in the house or everyone can move out, but that either way you are raising the rent to closer to market values. That way you are completely out of the decision-making process for them, no one is getting unfair or special treatment at all. You're the idiot. That's your sister. I'm not saying she's innocent, she made a mistake and she's suffering the consequences of that mistake. For example, getting divorced. You don't have to punish her further by kicking her out of your house and putting her in financial and guardianship problems because you know she can't afford a place for her and the kids, whom you don't seem to have considered at all, on her own. Especially since they'd already made arrangements which both parties could afford. You're the idiot. You can totally think Campbell is the hero of this marriage, but it's not your place to decide who lives with their kids. They had already made an arrangement where he moved to an apartment which he can afford, so it's weird that you felt compelled to choose him when they'd already made a decision. If he divorces her and gets full custody of the children, you can revisit the idea of him living in your house with them, but for right now, it just seems like you got involved in something that didn't need your input. I got home yesterday at around 6:30 p.m. and found my roommate, who is a very good friend, had invited over. But there's more, she had brought her 2 or 3-year-old boy who was pretty adorable. Now keep in mind that I am a parent myself of a 3-year-old boy and a 5-year-old boy, so I'm very protective of kids, so I might be overthinking things, but I don't think I am. When I got there they had the kids sitting in the family room watching children's shows, but the TV was muted and she had her music blasting really loud instead. Now this music was, in my opinion, music that a 2 or 3-year-old boy shouldn't be listening to for at least 10 or 13 more years. As an example, when Korn's Y'all Wanna Single came on, she goes I love this one, and turns it up even louder, to the point where we can barely hear each other talk. Now I want to point out that my friend was pretty drunk at this point, so I don't think he even realized anything was going on with the child, because I know he wouldn't have been okay with it either, having a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old himself. Around 8 p.m. I went and hid in my room cause she annoyed me, and for the next 2 hours, I would say about 90% of the time this little boy was crying, and she either ignored it or would scream at him to shut up. He then went quiet, and about half an hour later I heard them go up to his room. I went out to see what happened to the boy, and I saw him curled up in a little ball on the floor next to the couch in just a diaper. The ceiling fan above him was on, and he was freezing to the touch, so I put a blanket over him, but otherwise didn't want to move him. I went over, and I'm doing the dishes for about 10 minutes, when I hear him wake up and start crying. I sat there for about 30 seconds to see if she was going to come down and take care of him, but when she didn't I went over to him and told him everything was gonna be okay and put my arms out to see if he'd let me pick him up, and he basically ran right into my arms. I rocked the little guy to sleep and held him for probably 5 to 10 minutes because I had a sneaking suspicion that he doesn't get much physical parental cuddles from mommy, and all kids need that. I then laid him on the couch and put the blanket back over him. Would I be the idiot if I called Child Protective Service? The reason I haven't yet, and the reason I have been going back and forth in my head all day, is because, well, I've read and heard way too many horror stories about the system and wonder if he would really be better there. I also know that she got full custody, and if she was a better option for that child, the dude must have been a piece of crap. Granted, the system doesn't always work in that case. My kids are with my ex-wife most of the time, and she is almost as bad as this woman was. Needless to say, I wasn't able to sleep much last night. Please help, I'm torn. Not the idiot to call. Child Protective Service doesn't remove a child from one phone call typically. And you were the best case scenario for this little boy, but this mom is almost certainly going to expose her son to those other scenarios. In most cases, Child Protective Service will do its best to offer parent classes, therapy, etc., and removal of a child isn't a flippant decision. Please call if you feel that necessity in your gut. I would call in this situation. Not the idiot. Call Child Protective Service. If it turns out nothing is wrong, then no harm no foul. If something is legit wrong, the state needs to be able to step in and protect the kid. Reminds me of years ago when we were fixing up a rental house and the neighbor's kid kept pestering us. His mom yells from the house that it's nap time, and he says, "But I don't want to breathe into the rag anymore," before heading into the house all slow and dejected. Not the idiot. In fact, depending on where you live, you could potentially be held criminally liable should something happen to the child, and there is reason to suspect that you were aware and did not report. It is super rare, but it can happen. Not for nothing, but I feel like you are letting your friend off the hook too easily here. You say he has kids? Then he was at least somewhat aware of the scenario in your home and let that little boy lay there on the floor with no blankets in a stranger's home so he could get some back.